Share my screen. Welcome to Business Relationships Matter Network. And today I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Alan Stevens, the International Human Pattern Recognition expert. I've known Alan for quite a while through networking, and it's his ability to discern information just by looking at us is rather scary in some ways. But he is a multiple national and international business awards. Alan Stevens is going to talk about the science and the art of reading people. He's the human pattern recognition expert, winner of multiple national and international business awards, and he created, the rapid trait profiling system that shows people how to understand personality, emotion, and intention with accuracy. He has worked with clients including Disney Films, Gillette, Australian law enforcement, educators and leaders across multiple industries. He's a multi-award-winning and best-selling author, and he's founded the We Together initiative, the Campfire Project, the Business of Smiles charity, and is director of the Central Coast Montessori Primary School, dedicated to shaping stronger human connections.
As it says there, it's the science and art of reading people. And first of all, thanks very much for the invitation to come along and share with everybody. There's a couple of faces here I know here quite well, like Fiona and also Dr. Chris. In fact, Dr. Chris is I would say a partner in crime with a podcast called WTF 2025. So the WTF this year started on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we selected that. But you can put WTF to whatever you like to put to those initials. So what's the focus or whatever you like to think that comes to mind. But basically, what it comes down to about reading people, I'm going to have a few slides, but I'm going to go through them very quickly. They're mainly here as just little placeholders to keep me on track, because one of the things, as you said before, Ross, you're going to put a timer up. Good idea. Never give me the microphone without controlling the off switch, because once I get started, I just keep going. And as we go through this, by the way, as we get towards the end, what I want is everybody to in agreement. I'm going to look at your faces. I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing, if you're okay with that. And I'll point out, first of all, I don't read people for any other reason but to build relationships, and always done with respect. As the slide shows there, and as Ross said, I've worked with people all over the world, things like Disney Films, Gillette, the Australian Federal Police, the Tax Office. I've been interviewed by radio, TV, podcasts. In 22, it was over 90 interviews in the 1 year. So a lot of activity where people have been finding out about what I do. That part on the left side of that screen is probably the most important to me at the moment. That my work originally started with Carl Jung. Freud was all about diagnosing things. It was all about, this is where the psychologist got involved. This is where you go through therapy and you spend a lot of time. Jung was all about archetypes, symbols and things, and that's where Myers-Briggs and disc profiling started. Adler, though, was all about how do we move into the future? It's all about humanistic personalities, humanistic psychology, how to build relationships, how to build communities, and how to move forward. My work started with Jung, but now has moved to where Adler is. And the saying there was Freud diagnosed, Jung explored, Adler empowered, and Alan Stevens delivers. And so I've taken his work and put it into a deliverable format. If you're in business, there's Gallup said in 2022, the 7 top points you need. The first one is build relationships in your business. The whole story of, you want to look after your customers, you've got to put your staff first. By putting your staff first, you automatically put your customers first. That may take a little bit of getting your head around, but if your customers aren't happy, they've left mainly because the staff weren't happy that we're dealing with them. So that's quite important. So build relationships, develop your people, lead with change, inspire others. You've got to think critically and you've got to communicate clearly. That last part is not giving them accountability. If you treat your people the right way with these, they will assume accountability. The catch cry today is go and work on your business. Well, you can't do that unless you've got people in the business working in it for you. Because if you can't go on holidays or anything else, a true business person can go on, have the right people in their organisation so they can go on holidays, be away from the organisation for an extended period, not only will a company survive, it will actually grow in their absence. And that's only happens when you've worked with your people the right way. The fact is, in the real world, is everybody has suffered or insecure. Everybody wears a mask. And yes, everybody pretends they're not wearing a mask. And I'll put my hand up to that as well, because there's certain things that I'm going to be a little bit cagey about sharing with people. It's just natural because we want to be seen well by everybody. They say that we're a product of all our childhood rewards and sufferings. More importantly, that bottom line is that we are the sum of how we've chosen. We've decided to choose how we're going to deal with all the experiences in our life. So whatever's happened to us has been our choice. And once you understand that, we have power over everything else. Nobody controls us. And so when it comes to connecting with people, we have to be able to read them, communicate with them. If we can connect with them, then we can engage them, and then we can influence. If I had asked you before this, when I've got a longer period of time, I always ask people, what's the most important thing? Is it the relationships you build, or is it your products and services? Well, the reality is they're all equally important, but the priority is always you have to build a relationship before anybody will listen to you about your products and services. So to connect with them is the most important part, because then you can transition through and you can then get the products and services on the market. So we take that top section and we break that down. So the connection becomes the middle again, but the read section, the communicate and the confirm become the major items here, and we break those down. What it comes to in reading somebody, I want to be able to recognize how they take the information in, how they prefer to receive it, how they're going to process it, and how they're going to respond with whatever situation they're in. At the same time, if I can do that, then I can communicate with them by getting the right words in place. And then once I've got the words in place, by getting the right details in the right order, in the right style, I can then go and get the confirmation back from their indicators of non-verbals, which I'll explain in a moment, through looking at them in clusters, if they're congruent and are they in context. So your facial features, and this might sound a little bit woo-woo, and this is why I said if everyone's agreeable, we'll go back to the big screen later on where I can see everybody's face and I will read and tell you what I'm seeing. And the facial features give us that foundation. It is probably the most important part of the whole thing. There was a movie or a show on TV about 8 years ago called Lie to Me. It was a flavour of the month. We have The Mentalist. We have a whole bunch of other shows. In fact, the Newcastle Herald described me as the mentalist meets Dr. Phil meets Cal Lightman from Lie to Me. So I brought all those areas together into one. So in that process, that might be sexy, picking people up and watching their expressions and knowing whether they're telling the truth or not. But if you don't build a relationship with them first, if you don't understand the base level of where they're at, you're going to have problems. So the facial features tell us their personality. We then know how to change the words it says over here to communicate with them right. The paralanguage, as I've got up there, the communication involves both of those going out to that person. But what we get back from them is the body language and the expressions that then tell us whether we read them right. But we also get their language coming back, how they're talking, etc. That then confirms that we've read them right. As far as the facial features go, there's 15 different sciences now. These ones that support the fact that facial features alone are connected to personality, but these ones have a direct connection to it. Now, I'm presently working with Newcastle University now to go into getting the empirical testing done of the facial features so that they've still put it above every other profiling system on the planet. Now, this is all about what I'm talking about here is personalities and also then communication. So if we look at the different systems out there, like rapid trait profiling is the one that I've put together. I took those 5 different sciences, brought them together, put them together, and they're delivered as an art form, hence the science and art of reading people. If we look at DISC profiling and Myers-Briggs, there's a lot of drawbacks with them. Anywhere that you have to self-assess, especially when you have to answer a lot of questions, like Myers-Briggs on the extended version is 144 questions. I don't know about you, but when I start filling a questionnaire out like that, I might be in one-minded state at the beginning, but by the time I've gone through all those questions, I guarantee I'm not going to be in such a good state. So, and again, with those testing, because they're based on your emotions at the time, they quite often can be that, but when you go back to do it several months later, you get completely different results. But yet, all the large organizations around the world, the top 89 of the top 100 companies use Myers-Briggs, even though it's got so many failings with it. The other system is what they call a Big Five, which is a psychologist profile, which is based on, they call it OCEAN, openness to experiences, consciousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Now, with that, they still have self-reporting in there. And with self-reporting, people are going to try and answer it in the best way that they can, which is quite often not in line with who they really are. And so at the moment, I'm on a parallel with the Big Five as far as the proficiency of this. But once we get that scientific proof done, this will put that in front of theirs as well. That's why I'm pushing pretty hard at the moment to also create and train my competition. But what it comes down to, your personality traits, when I'm reading people, every trait has an upside and every trait has an equal downside. Everybody wants to be seen in the best light. I've got some traits which are real doozies. I've got critical perception, which is fantastic for finding the errors in documents and things like that. But in personal relationships, it can be an issue in there to where you misjudge things and you create issues. I've been married, divorced twice before I learned how to read people. And I know that trait played a significant part in what I did in those relationships. So by knowing the downside of my traits empowers me to be able to take dominion over the traits, my personality traits that might get in the way. So with that, and by the way, no trait is better than another one. You have traits that were passed down from your parents in the DNA, what we call the nature traits. Then in your response to how you've dealt with every issue in your life, the nurture traits are then developed along the way. That's why our faces change over time. We pull the same expression over and over because we're feeling and thinking the same way inside. We're going to create ridges and crevices on our face to give away how we like to think and process. That's why, by looking at your faces without even talking to anybody, I've already got your personalities. There's no hiding. It's then when I'm talking to you, I get the feedback from your body language and expressions that then tell me about your character. Now, this is where I do want some involvement, and that is in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind. Out of these three, they are the same face. All I've done was take the middle one. I've narrowed it over here a little bit, so at least the size of the eyes and the gaps between them are the same ratio. And that one I've extended a little bit. Just in the chat box, can you please put in whether for confidence, which one you see as the most confident, 1, 2, or 3? Excellent. So as we can see there, there's 2s and 3s. Just having a quick look back on there. Did anybody say, no, he said 1. Funny about that. Okay, which one looks the most trustworthy to you? 1, 2, or 3? Okay, well, I noticed that Dr. Chris had said 2 was the most confident and 3 was the most trusted. That correct, Dr. Chris? Yep. So, but you'll notice if you have a look at the chat box, you'll see that some of the numbers have swapped around. Some of you have said, 3 for one, 2 for the other, or the other way around. But you've also had, when I've asked about confidence, you've all given different numbers in some cases. If I've got a large group, they're all over the place. What I want to do with that was just prove to you that, first of all, everybody in the room is a profiler. But the thing is, when you profile people and read them, you base it on the experiences you've had in your life. So when people say, is my profiling judgmental? No, your profiling is judgmental. It's based on how you feel about things, the interactions you've had. If I train 100 people in a room and another person walks in the door and they've all been through my course, they will all get the same profile. We see the other person as they are on the world scale, not related to how we feel about things. So basically, what this is all about, the summary is facial features, understand ourselves and other people, how they take in information and process it, how they are likely to react, their strengths and challenges they go through. The language we use tells us what amount of detail, the order, the style, and that which we need to talk to them. And down the bottom, the body language and the micro expressions then tell us, did we read them right? Was there something emotionally going on? And are they telling the truth? This is where it all comes in. It's all about being able to read that person, where they fit into the world scale, and therefore be able to talk to them in the way that they need to be spoken to. But I'm going to move very quickly through this. So I want to get people on screen very quickly. But basically, there is a free gift I'm giving everyone so that you can actually go and test, because I usually go through some traits. I'll put it in the chat box as well later. But the whole thing is, it's a free course. Takes you about 28 minutes to go through it. It'll give you some traits you can go and test for yourself. That way you get an experience of what it's like. You'll find one gentleman in there who, when I profiled him, he's a business coach over in Perth. And at that time, we'll just stop the recording on that, get that out of the way. There we go. So I got you back on screen. When I profiled him, he sent me 5 photographs. I sent him a 45-minute audio back. When he got that audio, he then came back to me and told me that he used to be an undercover narcotics agent for 2 decades before he was a business coach. And the business coaching he is doing today is training the SAS leadership teams at the top levels. What he told me was that in those 2 decades, he learned skills that he believed were up to 95% accurate. As he said, if they weren't, he wouldn't be alive today. But what I put in that 45-minute audio from looking at 5 photographs not only matched but nuanced everything he'd learned about himself in the 2 decades. And of course, he then signed up for my master course. So that's the whole thing, because if I very quickly looking at some of the faces, I know that Kim, when he listens to things for the first time, he's not going to rush out and tell everybody about it. He's going to go away, practice it, make sure he's got it right and fully understands it. I know that, where are we now? Janine, what I call critical perception, like me, she'll find the errors in everything. She's also self-reliant. Things have got, she's happy to go and work on things on her own. Once she's made a decision, it's just give me the best way to do it, get the hell out of the way and let me get into the work and get it done. I know that Jeff, wicked sense of humour. I know that, he's got a dry wit, and any conversation we have, there's going to be a lot of joking, and anything I throw at him, he's going to be able to throw back at me. I know that looking at Narelle, for instance, if she's working on something, she doesn't like to be, people rushing over and asking her what's going on. If she's working on something, a bit of stress, leave her alone. If you need her attention, you go over and you would ask her, say, look, Narelle, I know that you're working on something that's really important to you. I need your help over here. But instead of dragging her over, which would upset her, it'd be a case of, Narelle, how long do you need to fix that up, so that whatever you're working on, so you can come and help me? Would 5 or 10 minutes be okay? If she said 10 minutes, I'd go back in 11 or 12. I would tell her I've given her extra time because I can see it's really important to her. But if she comes and helps me now, we'll be able to fix my problem quickly and she can go back to what she was doing. And therefore, she's more than likely to be able to say, yes, come over and help me, and go back to what she's doing. And I won't lose her respect and friendship because I haven't just dragged her away. I've acknowledged that she's busy. I don't know if I've got something that's got to be put together and I haven't got time to do it myself. And I wanted somebody to put together and make sure it's absolutely right, because it's going to be the way that everyone's going to go be doing it now. It's someone like Jeff, Carolyn, or Kim, and also Ross, who build their confidence by doing something for the first time, go away, practice, and make sure they got it right. So I know that if I give them a task, they're going to get it absolutely right. But if I need them to get it done by a certain time, I would say to them, look, there's going to be a lot of questions that will come up in this. So instead of agonizing over it, come back and see me and we'll work through the problem together. And so that way, when we finish there and finish with that, if everyone would then like to make comments about what I've said, please do. We'll get some feedback from everyone.
Alan, just before we go on to that, I'd love to thank you so much for taking the time today to deliver the presentation and show us some interesting things and tell us some interesting things about ourselves. But I appreciate the expertise you bring to this subject is amazing, and congratulations on getting the scientific studies on the ball. But I really appreciate you coming along to Business Relationships Matter Network, and we look forward to having the question and answers now.
Thank you.